Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Adam here with Indie Farm Life. So I was just thinking the other day that I kind of left you guys in the lurch. I showed you the prep for the concrete in the barn, and well, I never really circled back and showed you the finished product. So let's go take a look at that and talk about some other plans for the barn. So as we walk up here to look at the concrete, many of you will not believe me when I tell you that it's been 31 days since this has been poured. And I say you won't believe it because look at the extreme discoloration or lack of uniformity across it. This stuff is still curing and moisture is still working its way out of the concrete. So I posted a short about this, about wet curing. And I don't know if any of you are familiar or know, but if you actually work to keep a concrete slab wet while it's curing, it can actually increase the strength of that concrete by up to 50%. Now, like I said, I posted a short about this, and I had a handful of people commenting saying I was ruining my concrete, I did things wrong, etc. However, from my understanding is that you really can't go too heavy on the water. Now, you don't want to put the water on here right away as the concrete is still setting up, but after about 4 to 8 hours, you can start to add water. And in some cases, people actually flood the entire area so that they've got 3-4 inches of water just standing on it the entire time. Because if you don't know, concrete can cure underwater. So needless to say, I went pretty heavy on the water, and this does look quite a bit better now than it did a week ago, 2 weeks ago, etc. Being in this barn with limited to no sunlight making its way in here, and I say limited because the door's been open a lot, it's taken quite a while to dry out. As you can see right here in front of the door where the sun does get to it, the concrete is likely 99% of the way cured and the moisture has worked its way out. But over here in these other areas still have a lot of moisture that's working its way out as it's curing. So now that we're past the 28-day mark, which is typically when you get to your 99+% of strength in concrete, and I may start parking machinery in here, but I'm going to hold off on bringing all the knick-knacky smaller stuff in here along with the pallet racking, etc. I've got some bigger plans, and I want this to be a transition to a nicer space and not just the addition of a concrete floor into a space that's just kind of a dumping ground. And as you can see, this has been a nice place to store some of the pools from the beach out there at the pond that the kids have been using. So being able to throw those in here without having them get damaged was nice. It's also where I unboxed all my stuff for the well pump from RPS Solar Pumps. Getting that project moving along. Got to run down some hardware, but stay tuned as we work to get that well going out there for the pond to really fill things up. But RPS's stuff is right here. The main first item of business is going to be to clean this up, all this dirt, and some of this is honestly probably groundhog poop because I did have a massive problem with that. But I'll probably power wash the entire inside and outside of the barn just to make things a little orderly. From there, I'm going to add a couple more of these runs of 2x4 on both sides. So these are really set in place initially when they were building to help keep things from shifting around. However, given that this is a metal building, I'm going to put probably 1-2 more. That way, whenever I'm ultimately done out here, I can put some cabinetry and have a place to affix things. As you walk around here, you're also going to see a number of little holes in there. I honestly don't know why those exist. Perhaps someone who has built a Quonset hut could tell me. I did not build this. But as we talked about previously, we did get all the pockets filled in with concrete now, so we don't have that issue of dirt and debris going down into that trough, and the barn is much stronger now. Got the pockets filled on the inside and on the outside. As you can see, it is quite dirty out here. All the pallet racking and whatnot's living there, and there's still just junk everywhere that honestly begs the question of, hey Adam, when are you going to the dump? In addition to those small holes there, I do have a handful of little leaks. I hope you can see maybe on that 2x up there, there's a hole somewhere in the penetration that didn't get sealed, and water's been coming down around that 2x and down. I need to probably replace that one. I know that there's another one over here somewhere, and while you probably can't see them now, there are a few small pinholes in the ceiling. I think there's maybe one right there. I'm not sure you can catch it or not, but I need to seal those up to make this thing fully watertight. And while having things watertight is always best practice, some might argue, Adam, it's a barn with a tractor and some other machinery. It's not a perfectly nice wood shop. Why do you need it to be so watertight? Well, obviously that's just the desire that anyone would have. But also, and more importantly, I want to run electric out here. And I think most of you know that electricity and water don't usually mix very well. Actually, they mix very well, and that's the problem. So I'm standing up here by the house. One of the AC units is running over here. Hopefully you can hear me. And there sits the barn. So power is going to be coming from this end of the house, which is where the panel in the basement lives. Our house actually has split panels. We have one in the garage and one in the basement. But thankfully our one in the basement has some capacity. So the plan is to punch it through the wall here, come out next to our grinder pit. And I haven't decided on the route just yet. It's either going to go down through the ravine here and cross back up, or more likely stay up here on flat ground, get past my extension cord bridge here, and then cross over. Either way, the distance is about 150 feet or so. I've got the wire ordered. We're going to be running 2224 wire out here, and we'll be installing a 100 amp panel, which I think is on my front porch. This is likely the easier of the two routes to go. If you've been with the channel for a long time, you know that my sewer, my grinder pit line runs right through here. But if you guys know me, when I dug it, I'm pretty sure I put it at about 4.5 feet deep before we added material back. So shouldn't be an issue, but I'll have 811 come mark it. Do have a tracer wire on it. I think we'll probably bring the service in somewhere right here so that panel lives in that corner just inside the barn. And I mentioned my electrician. My electrician, some of you might think, is actually Kyle from Spicer Designs. That is not the case. Actually, that's the case. Kyle is actually Adam from Hometown Acres resident electrician, and I believe that there's something in the IBEW union code that you can only be an electrician to one YouTuber named Adam. So Adam has actually already selected and retained Kyle. My electrician is actually a good buddy of mine now. He was the electrician we had when we built our house. So he's been an incredible asset to have around here. And it's always nice to have an electrician you can have a few cold ones with. So I'm going to use the backhoe to trench in that wire when it shows up. I say that wire, that's not wire, that's pipe for the well pump. Get the backhoe out, trench that wire in, get the panel set right there. Again, having some of these additional runs of wood across here to mount will be helpful. And I may even put a couple up top just so we have something easier to mount lighting fixtures to, as opposed to having to tack through the sheet metal. So at that point, we'll have a mostly sealed space with electric, and this is going to be turning into a great space to use for, say, a wood shop or more intricate projects, as opposed to just storing things out here. However, in an attempt to be somewhat smart about this and not move everything twice, I may go ahead and move forward with insulating this. Now, you might look around and say, well, how do you insulate this? You don't have stud bays. It's not exactly that easy. Obviously, you can't use traditional bad insulation, and spray foam is probably the way you're going to have to go. So once we have electric out here, I'm going to look into getting closed cell spray foam sprayed in this. Those two things will make this an incredibly different and very useful space. I likely still will put a wood stove over here in the corner. However, before I go to the extra effort and cost of spray foaming this, I need to seal up not just the ceiling and those small little pinholes, but these corners here where the sheet metal doesn't quite tie back. But more importantly, this entire back wall likely needs to be rebuilt in some capacity. The bottom is sheet metal. The top, though, is that real thin plastic corrugate, kind of like what you might see on a greenhouse, but it's opaque in nature. If we're going to put spray foam in here, I'm going to take that down, repair some of the studs on this wall because it's not the best. There's no stud run from the top to the bottom. Those two plates just kind of rest on one another, so it's pretty flimsy. But I want this to be sheet metal if we're going to be spray foaming things. So once we have power and spray foam, and this place is sealed up with the wood stove in there, it's going to be a really nice space. At that point, I can then start to bring the pallet racking back in and really turn this into a decent shop and work out here in the wintertime. That's always been the goal. I want a space where I can come out here and work, and when the day is done and the projects are not over, I can go back inside and leave things out if need be and come back to it. Right now I build things in the garage all the time, and I have to take down the table saw and the miter saw, etc., clean up, bring the cars back into the garage, and you spend as much time tearing down and setting up as you do actually working on things. So we'll see if we can get both of those items done this fall. I'm hoping that we can. Definitely electric anyway. If I have to hold off on the spray foam for a while, so be it. But now there's still one giant looming project for the barn that I've discussed, I don't even know how many times, quite honestly. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. And it'd be the lean-to / structure off here to the side of the barn. I have two posts set, which you think would be progress, except that I did that about 3.5 years ago. Good news is they're still standing. I must have done a really great job. So I've got the 2 posts here. I think the general plan is to set a 3rd and 4th post here. So we'll have 4 posts up against the sill there. Set 4 posts out here. We'll run our long beam down the backs of those posts. And then out there under all my lumber, if you remember, I've got a ton of I-joists. So as a reminder, this is all the lumber that came out of that barn. Most of it is all milled up stuff, all of that out there. But this right here, and right here you can get a little sneak peek. But I believe that pile is something ridiculous, as in 27 or 32 I-joists, with the majority of them being almost 15 feet in length. And I actually believe that I have enough of them that if I place them 24 inches on center, I can run from this post all the way down to the back post there, and I can do the same running the width of the barn as well. So I can start in that corner and come this way and have another one 15 feet off the building as well. I don't think that that accounted for this like kind of wedge, if you'll call it that. So be it. If I have to buy a few pieces of lumber, I will. But it could make a really nice addition to the space. I've already got some gravel stockpiled, some old stuff from the barn out there that I'll throw in here as the base. But it'd be nice to get the backhoe under shelter, and perhaps even my trailer and or the barge wagon, which is over there full of junk somewhere. So what do you guys think? Decent plan? Issues you can foresee? Will I get it done? The electrical will definitely get done this fall. Even if the whole barn doesn't get wired up with multiple outlets and lighting, etc., we definitely will have the panel out there and a few circuits. The spray foam is likely the thing that may take the back seat. I'd like to get everything in the barn and put away as I like it, but I may just kind of move in what I need, and I'm hopeful that if I get the post set for this lean-to, if you want to even call it that, that I'll actually get things moving forward and get this thing built. The substructure is there. I'll come out in the evenings and throw up a handful of joists here and there. That won't be a big a deal. And I've just been spraying all this. I still have a number of telephone poles that we're likely going to be using for those posts. Some of them, though, are just absolutely mammoth. Like that guy there. Talk about using that for a post. Or that one there. That's definitely what you call overkill. I do want to get through that lumber, though, because I would sure hate to see that stuff go to waste. I mean, but again, it's covered in a Harbor Freight tarp, so it's pretty much bulletproof. And it's funny because now we sit here in August, and I made that list in the spring, or that video in the spring, of all the projects I wanted to tackle. Some much higher on the priority list than others. Concrete in the barn was on the list, but way down the list. I never thought that I would actually get that one done this year. And like I said in a previous video, my buddy Chris is the one who kind of forced my hand there. He brought me a great deal on concrete that I really couldn't turn down. So we hit the green light and started moving stuff out. I think that worked out for me to be about $6.13 a finished square foot. So I don't know if you guys have priced concrete or not. That's a pretty good deal, at least around here. So the list, though, is always changing. There's always things moving up the list, down the list, on and off the list. And this year, one of the big things has been this pond. Still got to get the well pump over in the well from RPS Solar Pumps. That should be happening here real soon. And also high on my list this summer has been enjoying this thing. Because after all, it's only hot in Indiana for so long. And then comes the snow. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.